showing up as you are, whatever that looks like today, even if it's also not knowing what that is and being authentic and vulnerable and true about it, is already being you, right? Because you're being true to the moment. You're not being true to an idea. You're not being true to a concept. You're not being true to a career or, right? Like some sort of thing that boxes you in. No, we're here to be unboxed. We're here to be free. This is really our true identity. And that freedom exists in the moment. And the more we practice that authenticity in the moment, we will feel our own freedom. It takes courage to step up like that. It takes courage to just be yourself in the face of everyone or, the world, especially the crowds and peoples and places that knew you a certain way, that saw you a certain way. Hello, sweet spirit familia, my YouTube familia. Welcome, welcome. Look at this space. Look at that, look at that. This is where I'm spending my morning today. And part of that morning will be with you here on the edge of a little creek river that goes into the intercoastal here in Miami, which all lead to the ocean. These are all salt water. Okay, I'm gonna stop being a tour guide and get to the point of what I want to talk about today, what's on my heart today, which is the courage that it takes to step up, to speak up, and just be you. Whatever that looks like right now, whatever is true to your heart right now, even if you are still discovering what is true to your heart, right? And just being true to that, being authentic about your discovery, being authentic about your process. My process of discovery of who I am and what this is all about, who is God, right? Who is Jesus really? All these parts, these were big questions for me in the path of self-discovery. And it's a process I did really by myself. I mean, with the Spirit, right? With God. And that became evident over time. I didn't know that when I started. But for some people, it can be a process that they share. And I'm stepping up and stepping forward now that I feel the call, I feel the pull to that, because that hermit stage was so important for me. And yet some people may feel the call to share that hermit stage, to share that going inward in a different way. And we can be true to any stage. We can be authentic to any stage. And it takes courage to say, I don't know what's going on, or I'm figuring things out, or, who I was last year is not who I am today. And I might not know exactly who I am and what that means, but all I do know is that I'm releasing concepts. I am healing past identities and ideas about who I am, about who God is or was to me. And it takes courage to step up like that. It takes courage to just be yourself in the face of everyone or, the world, especially the crowds and peoples and places that knew you a certain way, that saw you a certain way. And so what's interesting is that A Course in Miracles is always teaching us that the world around us is an inside reflection. It's an outer reflection of our inner condition, of our state of mind. Not only that, but it is fully the projection, right? Like our family, our culture, our patterns, our partners, all these people are characters in the play of our life. And we are a character in that play too, right? And so the truth is that when we imagine what they see, 333, as I say that, I'm going to stop right there, because 333 is just like, it's that Trinity number, right? It's also what I like to call my Jesus number, but it's because Jesus is the brother that shows us the pathway of the heart, and the pathway of the heart is through our brother, right? So he's like the example, the epitome, the full potential the high self of who we truly are. He is the living example and the presence of that love that we can practice and tune in with if that feels good to us, if we've healed that, because I surely needed to heal that idea about who Jesus was and, what the church taught me about Jesus. And so, yeah, back to, that was a little 333 because it connects, right? Like me, my brother, and God, that full connection. And so, when the mind is the one that is holding this reality and we are looking at others through our, we are seeing how others see us, it's really just how we see us. And we're projecting it on other people's ideas. And yes, they probably do have opinions or thoughts or whatever, but that's still part of the projection. That's still part of our thoughts about who we are. They are witnesses to our own thoughts, even if they're hidden, unconscious thoughts. And so healing that, showing up to the other characters in the play, right? Speaking up, being yourself, being authentic to whatever is showing up, to whatever you're learning, to what you're discovering in your own time. There's no rush to do this, right? You have to also be discerning and be true to you. This is why listening to guidance and being intuitive is so important on the path. It's not just about doing stuff. So I'm not saying just go and do that, but as you get exposed, as life leads you into more situations with people, and you can feel when you're ready to open up, to say what you're feeling, to show the different you, whatever that different you is. For me, it's a me that believes in God outside of, institutions, religious dogma, and past concepts. It's a me that loves Jesus outside of the concepts of what Jesus is and all this idea of sacrifice and division that has been created around Jesus. It is a personal relationship. It is a me that is no longer married, right? It is a me that got separated because I listened to what was true to me and understood that the best decision I could have made, that I needed to make, was to make space in the most loving and authentic and real way for myself so that I could figure out what I truly wanted, because clearly where I was in the relationship I was in was not in alignment with who I was, what I was becoming, what I was understanding of the world, and I wasn't going to change anybody to take that trip with me, right? I was going to love them and allow them to be on their journey in their way. Loving them didn't mean that I had to stay. And that sometimes, we confuse that about love. But love contains it all, and it includes us. It includes us listening to ourselves, saying yes and saying no. And that is the authentic journey. And that's what this video is about, showing up as you, who you are, in the spaces that you frequent, in the circles that you connect with. So many of us continue to put a mask or just avoid completely showing up as we are. And really, it's such an invitation to freedom. Showing up as you are, whatever that looks like today, even if it's also not knowing what that is and being authentic and vulnerable and true about it, is already being you, right? Because you're being true to the moment. You're not being true to an idea. You're not being true to a concept. You're not being true to a career or, right? Some sort of thing that boxes you in. No, we're here to be unboxed. We're here to be free. This is really our true identity. And that freedom exists in the moment. And the more we practice that authenticity in the moment, we will feel our own freedom. We will step into a natural sense of confidence and conviction because we are choosing ourselves. We are choosing the truth of what is happening now and not letting ourselves be at the whim, right? Will of what other people think. And so that goes back to the mind. Excuse me. That goes back to the mind, what I was saying before, right? Whatever we think about what other people think of us is really just our thoughts about ourselves, right? And whatever you think about of what I think about you is just your thought about yourself. It's just I'm the projected witness in your play, in your experience that's showing you that thought and proves it to you, right? And so showing up is a natural, beautiful, empowering, showing up as you, empowering practice, way of life, 1001. Yeah, it starts everything anew, and it takes courage. It takes, and it's not that courage like strength courage, like, oh, go out there and be you. And no, it's really, it's a restfulness, right? There is a courage because you have to have a willingness to step forward. You have to have a foundation that is so secure in what is authentically you, and that can change. I'm going to share a quick story before I close out this video that I felt really was so beautiful to witness. I don't know if you guys know Malcolm X, right? The story of Malcolm X. He has, beautiful life story. But a big part of his story, I'm sweating. This is Florida weather. A big part of his story was him following this guru, it's not the word, but they're from Africa, and he was really connecting to his African roots and his African name. And you can understand that because he was rediscovering himself and the truth of who he was and where he came from and his culture. And so this was really rooted in something beautiful. And then he discovered more things about this man and what this man was representing and everything, and realized that it was not who he was, that it was not representing what he thought it did, and therefore wanted to break ties, but had been already exposed because he was authentic. He had already, shown the world that this is who he was, that this is this man who we need to follow, that we all need to believe him, all this stuff. And, when he discovered these things about this man or this practice and everything that he, then, shined a light upon it, he had two choices. Either he hides about it, right? And just kind of continues, even if he doesn't believe it, just kind of like lets it be and doesn't mess with it and doesn't tell anybody. Or he shows up and says, I was wrong. I see today. I have new information, right? And now with that new information, I choose differently. And so I stand here before you and I say, I am learning, I am evolving, and that was not who I thought I was. That is not who I am. Period. Boom. He let it go. And I remember just being so impressed by that. Like, wow, the world knew him as this. And he stood for it. And he, I guess you could even say like he preached and, really almost worshiped this guy and made so many people follow him to ultimately find out more truth and then show face, right? And say, actually, you know what? This wasn't true. I was wrong. Or there were these aspects that was true, but all of this was not true. And so I'm learning, I'm human, I'm figuring it out, but this is what's true now to me. How liberating, man. How liberating. And so this video is my invitation to you to be like Malcolm, to be true to you in the moment, whatever that is that's showing up for you. We're all on a journey. We're all learning together. We're all discovering the truth of who we are. And discovering the truth of who we are is ultimately discovering who God is. And I would add to that who Jesus is, especially if you're in the West and you've grown up with concepts and ideas and things that, have limited, because it's come through a limited perspective. You've been taught about Jesus, about God, through the lens of a limited mind, right? Of a limited institution, of an egoic institution. So it only makes sense that we're going to learn the limited version, the boxed, divisive version, the egoic version of all these concepts, when in truth, these concepts are here to free us, to show us the love that we really are. And these concepts have been morphed and changed and edited and distorted in so many ways. So all of this is to say, that's been my journey of showing up as I am now, and you being here, being with you, walking with you. I am so grateful because I am able to show up as myself in this moment, whatever that's looking like. And I want you to invite, and I want to invite you to do the same. This will free you, friends. Step into the moment. Be true to whatever's showing up. Don't let yourself be constricted by ideas, by past ideas of who people thought you were. This is who you are now. Show me who you are now. Can you show me who you are now? Can you show them who you are now? Just be you.